Today's guest is one of the most inspiring creators on YouTube, with over a decade of experience and more than 67 million views on YouTube. He has become one of the most trusted voices in the global design community. His work blends craftsmanship with strategy, helping brands find clarity, confidence, and authenticity in everything they create. He's a graphic designer, brand identity expert, and educator who's helped thousands of businesses and creatives tell their stories through powerful design. He's also the founder of Will Patterson Design, a UK-based studio that teaches brands how to master their story, identity, and design. He's the man that I've wanted to work with for over 5 years, and today we are ready to make it happen. Please welcome Will Patterson.
Oh, thank you very much. What an intro. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks. You know, I think like an introduction is no different than like a warm hug or like a hello when you first meet them.
Totally.
So we always have to make sure that we start with positivity and get those creative juices flowing. So
of course, dude. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do things a little bit different on this for this event, and we always want to start our conversations a little bit more upbeat and fun. So you've done close to 10,000 design projects, and that's just the number that I'm estimating based on your social profile. But you're known for your brand and logo mashups. And if you were to take your favorite brand on the planet and to build the perfect business, who would they be and why?
Well, this is a tricky question. I don't even know what my favorite brand is. I'll be honest. There's so many. It changes day by day depending on like what I appreciate. But I might go for something like Apple, simply because of their like cleanliness. It's probably a cop-out answer that, to be fair, just because everyone likes Apple. But I think they do things very different to what other companies and brands do. And their strategy is very, very much long-term focused. It's not like a startup. It's not something, they're not trying to like take something new and force it or jam it down people's throats. They kind of, yeah, if that makes sense. What was the second part to that question? Because that took, like, thinking of my favorite brand, first of all, is a hard one to come up with.
Yeah, it's more or less like kind of Frankensteining something, right? Like, what do you like about some, so like we have the brand messaging of Apple, right? But then there's always like the quirkiness of things like, you know, like a Burger King or even just something that maybe you've done. And I can kind of give you an example. There's this company that does like, that does burritos. And I really like their color palette. But then at the same time, I really like the simplicity of Apple, but then also the simplicity of like in America, we have like Pottery Barn, which is like a relatively high-end thing, high-end house items. And I feel like for somebody that, if I were to answer that question, I'd probably be a mashup of like the simplicity and the cleanliness of like a Pottery Barn with the messaging of an Apple, with the funness of like a really spunky, cool logo for a burrito company. And how that all makes sense, it probably doesn't, but at the end, it's the answer. It's my answer. So,
okay, well, if you're going to go that way, I'd probably say, yeah, with the simplicity and the utilitarianness of Apple, and I would mix it with in the brand mission and the grittiness of Harley Davidson. I don't own a Harley Davidson, but I know their brand is people are loyal. They don't buy a motorbike; they buy a Harley Davidson sort of thing.
For sure.
So yeah, with the opposite color palette, more gritty, old school, leather jacket feeling Apple. That'd be interesting to me.
That'd be cool, man. That would be interesting. Like what product they would make on that would be quite stellar. But those are good answers, man. I appreciate it. Just to kind of get the creativity flowing a little bit, you know. So, you know, you built your brand around craftsmanship and identity, and how do you use AI tools, and how are they more or less changing the way brands are built today?
Totally. So first of all, we don't use AI to generate work per se yet. And I say yet because we've not found a tool that works well to generate actual logo work. And also because it takes a bit of the fun out of my work if I was to start generating and prompting. Secondly, we use AI for organizational stuff. When you're designing a brand, the biggest problem is communication with the client and the stakeholders. Every time we run into a brand, which is a lot of them, that come to us, they've already worked with another agency, but they didn't listen, is what they say. They didn't get the brief. They didn't understand it. We use apps that record calls that we have on like Zoom or whatever, that will transcribe everything. And we use it to essentially be a hub, like a chatbot for that client. So all Zoom, all calls are put into like an AI that I can go and ask questions to, where it will understand the context as well. So we might give it a pre-context prompt before the call begins. We use like OpenAI and Motion, the app. And in doing that, it means like even today, working on a brand identity for a pitch tomorrow, I needed to kind of remember what one of the creative directors of that company was saying, and remember what he wanted us to add into this pitch that was very specific and very important. And I would just ask it, the chatbot, and it would give me the answer faster, and it gives me it in context to what I'm doing. If, for instance, the chatbot knows enough about the client project, then I can even show it some of my work to see what some of the major complaints could be, or some of the pitfalls. So I know ahead of time. I can even ask the chatbot things that I wouldn't have normally have noticed, like patterns of talking. Keywords the client uses is a big one. So we talk about, I teach a lot about using the same language as a client. If they ask for a strong mark, that to me would be, kind of bold and masculine. When I write down my keywords, I can get them to switch them over. Instead of saying a bold mark, it would say a strong mark for the client. And in doing that, you can present a strong mark, not a bold mark, which they might interpret as something different. So again, branding is all about storytelling. And when pitching to brands, that's like the yay or nay side. And in using AI, we're able to make sure that our organization of all the elements that we need are in there. It might even ask us to or recommend mock-ups that we could use or textures that we could use. So AI for us isn't about the creation aspect. It's about doing all the administrative things that you wish someone could do without touching your artboards, if that makes sense.
Completely, absolutely. And I think, selfishly speaking, I'd say that as a creative myself, I would say that that's probably what more people should do, of course. Now, I do have a couple questions about that discovery phase that you are talking about, because I think that's super important, and a lot of people, especially nowadays, are probably more willing to just get started without actually having the prerequisites of understanding. So like if you were to jump on a call like right now, are there a particular set of consistent questions that you ask that you would recommend to people start asking either their team or their clients today?
It's that's an interesting question. And there is certain questions, but they're formulated in different ways. The first discovery call is normally me trying to understand in their point of view what they're trying to build. They think they're coming on to get a logo and some typography and colors, but I'm going on there to work out how they speak and work out whether we're compatible in the same way, so I can explain things back. I like to know how confident they are in their brand. And it's also a re-education camp, which sounds bad, but hear me out. It's a lot of clients will come onto a call and say, look, I want a logo. right? And you say, no, you need a brand. Everyone's heard this before from someone, some design guru or something. That's a re-education. What we do is in those calls, we set out expectations and we essentially teach them what a brand is. And in doing so, we open up their minds. So they may think that a brand is a logo or a color palette or all these things together. But we simply tell them through fact-based ways, like through a workshop, how brands actually communicate with the target audience and what the effect is on that doing so. So if you're able to, for instance, capture the audience that you want, it might not be through a logo. We might not even have to touch it, but it could be just simply moving some elements around on the page that best fits for that user or changing the messaging slightly. So a way of doing this is to work out the brand personality. And we explain it just like this on a call. We would say a brand is like a human. It's got a personality and it's got characteristics. We brand companies and entities as if they are human people, like we're creating a human. We need to decide the personality. And I give them like a graph, which has like two sides to it with a scale in between. And one of them might be mature and classic, and the other side would be young and innovative. And we would keep using those types of like wordings. I have them on like a presentation that I use. And they and their team will start arguing about what they think it should be. Is it more mature or classic, or is it more young and innovative? And what does mature and classic even mean? Does that mean it's more authoritarian? Is that more friendly, or is it more strict? So in hearing this conversation that they have, I'm able to actually understand more, because a lot of what happens in these calls is listening to what they're not saying. It's the words in between what they perceive mature and classic is, right? And that's why AI is important for us, because we're able to not spend time writing notes on patterns that we're hearing, but also able to read between the lines of how they're talking. So that's one of the questions that we use, but it's more re-education.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Like, how many meetings do you think it usually takes in order to get to that point, right? Because I think, again, a lot of people have these like set prices, more or less. And this is both for agencies, but also set processes. You know, they go back to the same things. They use websites like Canva and they do it themselves, and they just use pre-made templates and things like that. How are you able to articulate that brand messaging, and how long do you think most brands should be spending in order to speak that language, in order to make something right for their end user?
Yes, all the brand needs to do is, if they can fit the budget with the designer, then the designer just needs time. The worst thing you can do is, as a designer, is rush. If you're rushing, you're missing things. As branding experts, or as someone who strategizes for a brand, it's not about what you do, it's about what you don't do. It's not about what you say, it's about what you don't say. It's not about what colors you use, it's what colors you don't use. So a lot of designers get it wrong. They believe that it's like a logo is a logo, and a brand guidelines is a rule book, when in reality it's more of a toolkit to use. We need to work out why they shouldn't do these things, or use these colors, or use this type of typeface, and why they should use the other ones. And that inherently takes time. Too many designers, in my opinion, this is just my opinion and observations of what I've seen, they choose a sans serif font and they choose an off-white color and they go, that's it. That's the color. And they don't give a creative reason behind that. And one thing that we train designers who work with us, because we bring designers on board, one thing we say is every creative decision needs to have a creative reason, everything. So to the point of why, like, the tracking is, a little bit extra, or why this color must only be used in this combination, or why this gradient can be used. And the reason why is, if you're able to explain to the client in words why a decision has been made, it takes it from being an art piece into something functional and a design. Everyone wants to be able to talk about the design. And if you want to talk about it statistically and with data, then you have to have a kind of a reason. Like recently, we've had a client who wanted a different color at the start of their logotype in one of the letter forms than the rest to kind of stand it out. We don't say no. We go off and do it, and we bring it back to the next call, and we explain why it looks bad, but we also show why it looks bad. So in doing that, we're able to kind of get the client to see something and give them something that they can repeat back to us, like in very simple language. It looks terrible, or it's just not balanced, or it's not consistent or harmonious. So these words are really powerful. Hopefully that answers a few questions there for you as well.
No, it does. It also, of course, sparks more because I would say on a consistent trend, whether the person that is listening right now and watching are within their internal team, right, and they have a boss to go to, or you are an agency or a studio that has clients. Either way, you kind of have a boss. Most people in corporate America and even clients, they don't want to spend the time to actually go through all this. They just want it done relatively quick. But I also think that the process should be harmonious. So like if you are trying to articulate this to a person who may not necessarily have the time that you would probably want, what are some ways that you found that are really easy to be able to kind of do what you just said, right? You receive feedback, you go back to the drawing board more or less, make the modifications, and now you have to repitch this idea. Are there visual elements to it? You mentioned like a deck, and what is inside of that to kind of articulate yourself and make sure that the client and the team is on the same page as you?
Got you. Yeah, so I should probably have explained this at the start, but the way that we pitch our work isn't through, here's a logo, what does it look like? And how does it look to you? Do you like it? We don't call it a logo, we call it a concept, a direction. We make it really clear from the start that this work is not finished. These are concepts, and you can be brutally honest, and you won't offend me is what I say. Because depending on the client, they might not want to offend you because you might do bad work for them later. And I've heard this from like clients who've become friends later. They're kind of careful at offending you. So what we do is we have a zero revision strategy. We don't do revisions at all. We've never needed to. And the reason why is because when we pitch a logo, it's not pitching a logo, it's pitching a direction. We start with a mood board. That's our first kind of thing. Before we've drawn anything, we research a mood board and we explain a visual direction to the client, and they will either say yes or no. That is the only time where the logo or the brand visuals will ever be in question. So by that, in doing that, you've taken, let's say, we could go like modern heritage, right? That's like two mashups of something. So you could have like the typeface Arpona with a sans serif typeface as the secondary one, as like Inter or New High School Test Display. And excuse me. And in doing that, we can put them all together on this mood board, pitch it to them, and they'll say, yeah, this fits the brand based on the discovery call that we had. We love this direction, go in that. What you're doing there is you're reducing down ideas. Your goal as a designer isn't to do a pick and mix or design by committee. Your goal as a designer is to get them to say no as many times as possible at first. So you naturally target and focus your area. And the best way of doing that is starting with visual mood boarding. And it's the most fun because you can just go crazy and you can really refine that texture or mood board, And the next call after that, once they've said yes, they already know what they're expecting, but the marks might be different. So we show about, depending, 1 to 3 marks or 1 to 3 concepts at first. And we say the same thing. These are just directions. These aren't logos. We're just playing around. All we want to do is what we call the power of reduction, where you reduce down the ideas And naturally, the client will focus on one way. It's not a pick and mix. It's taking your best ideas and presenting them and presenting the idea that you want them to take in a certain way for them to take it. And in doing that, they always kind of know. So we just finished, a good example is we're working on a project right now, literally just before this call. And it's taken about 5 months, I think. And we're towards the end now. And the first logotype looks nothing like it does now, but it's in the same visual language as what it was. And in doing so, meant that the client was like, yeah, this is where we want to go, but we don't like this part. You can work with that as a designer. It's really quick. You're never going back to the drawing board. You're spending your time on strategy, not on designing. And the difference between logo designers and brand designers spend a hell of a lot more time on refining the message of the brand and spend a lot more time on how the brand works in unity with their products and how it's going to be marketed. They're all about how the user will feel. So if you don't have time, it's probably because your process is a graphic designer's process instead of a brand process where you're reducing down ideas naturally. And in doing so, you're not fighting. You're kind of not even selling an idea. You're just educating the client as you go, giving your thoughts, and they want to hear your thoughts. They're not here to pick one and just say, run with that. And in doing so, you just end up with a pretty straightforward process at the end of, okay, this is what you guys needed. Here's how we've differentiated it. There you go.
Yeah. It seems like you're setting the proper expectation, because I feel like what most marketers do is they kind of oversell, and because whether they're excited or they are the creatives themselves and they want to get their hands dirty on the particular company or brand. Do you feel like that's like a key strategy that more people should be implementing within their marketing, is setting the proper expectations and executing exactly what is proposed?
I think it's more about building your brand outside of it. If you're a brand designer that doesn't have a brand, then number one, what are you doing? And secondly, if you don't, they don't trust you. There's no trust in that. You've got to get the client to understand that you're not a budgeted item, that you're an investment to them. It's not just the work or the end process, it's the actual system that you're creating. And this particular client, we've worked on 4 different projects for over the past few years with them. And they keep coming back because they understand that we are bespoke. We have a brand image behind us, and we really do care. And even if we didn't care, they would not know. But we do. They wouldn't know, because what we're doing is like essentially just a process of empathy towards the client, getting them to, as much as possible, see how we're creating a brand. Another way of doing this, by the way, is by taking process images when you present a logo. Don't just present the end results. So show them the images of you drawing and ideating. It brings them behind the scenes a bit, and they like to see that. So hopefully that answers your question as well. I can go on forever about stuff like this. It's quite interesting.
No, I mean, this is it, right? This is the best part. This is why we're here, right? And I think what's really important to that, in this exact standpoint, is like setting the proper expectations, understanding what needs to be done, and then going above and beyond to achieve just that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to know, like, how much of your YouTube and your progression of years of messing with an algorithm can lead to a very successful company. How can others do it? And do you find that, like, you having a YouTube channel has been able to grant you, opportunities that you've never been able to achieve before?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for like 13 years now, so it's kind of hard to imagine without it, and to kind of empathize with people who don't have one. But I'll try, because when you I'm 31. I started it like half a life ago, so it's hard for me to know without it what would happen. But I think YouTube has definitely given me amazing opportunities to show my work and to be creative and to help designers and businesses as well. I think, has YouTube gotten me the design work that I have now? I think it's certainly helped a lot because they're able to see me. I've had this phrase, which is you don't have to be the best, but you just have to be their favorite. And a lot of people don't do YouTube because they won't get millions of views and they won't get, lots of money or whatever. But YouTube isn't meant to be about getting millions of views and lots of money. It's a corner of the internet. It's like a broadcast channel for your life. And what we try to do is help designers and help creatives show the differences of how we work and celebrate, inspire creativity. So yes, YouTube's helped. But I say that with a caveat, and I say it kind of like, has it helped or not? Because if I didn't do any work on the website or on the brand outside of it and work on what I call a funnel system of how do I get clients in the first place? Do they go to my YouTube first, or do they see my work first on Instagram or on my portfolio? And it's kind of 50-50. Our main clients that come to us have seen videos of me because they're looking for a graphic designer anyway online, and they might run into a video of mine, or they might see our particular work. A lot of our work is referred. So it depends. I think having a YouTube channel is an amazing tool that everyone should use because it allows you to show yourself and to be trustworthy to them. They've already met you before. Like, I'm in my YouTube spot. This is actually my work spot too. So when I'm on calls with clients, it looks exactly like this, where I'm presenting something. In doing that, number one, it's easier for me. Number two, it kind of brings the client into like, this is reality. This is a real thing that I'm doing. So yeah, build a channel, build social media. And that is to get eyeballs onto your work, obviously. But you have to be kind of good at your work as well. Think about what kind of clients you want. Are you looking for startups? Are you looking for established companies who need a refresh? Are you looking for hospitality, tech, other industry niches? A lot of people focus too much on niching their abilities rather than niching the industry they're working for. So yeah, it's a hard question to answer, but the overall thing is, YouTube definitely provides some amazing opportunities to share your work, to get work, and to to build your brand as a designer. Yeah.
Would you, if somebody was listening to this and they're just starting out, or even just you're working for a business, do you think niching down is a critical part of like where you've been able to see growth in your own business?
No. If you look at my channel, you'll notice that I talk all things design and branding. I don't really sit there and talk about brand strategy, even though that's what I class myself as, is like the logo design and the hand lettering and the visual stuff is only like 25% of what I do on a day-to-day basis for the agency. The rest of it is thought, productivity in working with companies to achieve certain goals. And the byproduct of it is the work that you see online. So could you repeat the question again so I can properly answer this?
Niching down in terms of like you said, niching. There's like a lot of success that, like, I'll give you a personal example, right? So when you're first starting out, it's like, listen, do you have a pulse? Do you have money? Because I'll take it, right? Because you're trying to survive. And then you survive, right? And then you get clients. And now it's just a matter of like, okay, well, now I need to perfect my craft. Obviously, you have you're a prolific person on social media, and all-purpose, really good designer, really good brand strategist. But then from the client standpoint, is there a difference in who you are as a content strategist versus that of like a studio? And does it work? Because like for me, at least in my personal career, I've noticed that not the worst clients, but the harder people to talk to are people outside of the consistency. Whereas when I have that consistency of like say healthcare or say hospitality, I can kind of speak their language a little bit better and a little bit more unique than that of somebody that does like chocolate bars, right?
Mm.
So I
I
was
get you.
curious to see
So
like if focusing on a niche it can be helpful to people that are listening.
yeah, it 100% can be helpful to the client. So there's two niches that we've got to distinguish here. There's a lot of people talk about having a niche as a designer. Like for me, it could be logo type design. So I love letter forms. So instead of doing pictorial icons, it could be designing just like letter forms and logo types. That is wrong. I'm pretty adamant on that. I can go into more why later, but niching on clients, so industries, is a really effective way at really honing in and targeting your abilities, but also people watching you. And the reason is simple. You're able to market towards people who are in the same industry, which is a small area of the market. So you take up more room in that. So for instance, if you're doing sport apparel, then you can niche down into it. I know there's designers who were making like not much money until they started working with luxury, niching down to luxury brands, and they will make loads. They move to Dubai and make loads of money doing the same amount of work. But all they did was refocus their sort of image to a certain industry. So that niching can work as well. I don't think it's required. It depends, really. I don't think it's required, especially for people who do branding. Because remember, if you're a brand identity guy and you're working in sport apparel or anything athletics, then there's only so much you can do within that industry. Someone who's like a branding person who does strategy and all this, they kind of need to work outside of their comfort industry sometimes. And that's where it can get complicated because there's no yes or no. It's more of this question. I see a lot of designers who, if I look at their work without seeing their profile, I know it's that person's work. And I think that can be in the long term a negative thing because you're using your style to create a brand style, which is just your style. But in the long term, I'm thinking designers should not have a style because that's artistic. They should be creating a new style for that brand. If you look at every effective brand identity out there, you don't know who designed it because the designer is missing. Like brands that we've designed that we don't talk about, no one knows it was us that designed those because what we've done is and this isn't me tooting our horn or anything or being, look at us. It's just to explain a concept. You don't know we did anything with it because we created a brand that isn't ours. But a style was generated for that brand visual for the brand. It wasn't, we love Will Patterson artwork. Because you can tell, if you look at my hand lettering, you can see it's mine on Instagram everywhere. If someone reposts it, that kind of looks like Will. But if you look at the logos, there's kind of clean ones here and heritage ones there. Now, there's a really cool designer that I want to shout out called Tobias Hall, who's a friend of mine. He's very good at heritage branding. He is just specialized, though. He's not niched. He hasn't niched down and said no to everything else. He's what I call a specialized designer. He recently rebranded Sol, the beer. With them, he did the illustrations. Looks amazing. I can't tell that was made by him, but I know that from seeing on his Instagram that it follows his specialization of etched artwork or etched wood. So when we think of niching, it's important to understand a few things. You might have a skill set like typography or lettering that you can use. And within that skill set, you can niche down, or sorry, specialize, not niche. With the clients, you can niche down with them, and then you can call it specialization with them too if you want. But the main story is you don't want to say no to work and then say that you're niching down, and that's the reason why you say no. You can say you're specializing, which means I know how to do all the other stuff. I know I've got a general understanding, but in this, specifically Tobias, he's niched out, specialized into this etched wood. So that's my sort of messy thoughts, if anyone can decipher what I've just said.
Well, what I think, what my takeaway is that, and what I'm realizing from this conversation is how important intentional conversations are. I feel like what I'm hearing is like you as a person and also as a brand are very intentional with how you ask questions. You're very intentional with understanding the customer. You're very intentional with how you design things. And you're very transparent that, hey, this is just an iteration or this is just a concept. I think that in itself, if anybody's going to listen to this, that's a huge takeaway. The word concept. Like there's so many words for things, right? And I think that matters more because it resets the client to think in a different way. That's more or less.
It brings the guard down.
Exactly. Yeah. No. And that in itself is amazing. I have two additional, I guess, thought processes when it comes to this story that we're building through this conversation. Is so now you have a successful brand / company. You have a successful marketing arm as the YouTube channel. What are some ways that you organize your time to focus not only on the lead generation aspect of your educational aspect of your business, but also the new client stuff? But then you have to record a video, you have to edit a video, you have to design for clients, you also have to live your dang life. So what are some things that you've learned over the past multiple 10 plus years of being in this space that can help other people?
Yeah. It's tricky. Yeah. You'd be busy. Yeah. I'm rarely doing something that's not work, but that doesn't mean it feels like work. Like recently, just to give people an understanding, I'm learning a new app called Cavalry for logo design animation. It's an amazing thing. That's me kind of progressing in what I do. I'm learning, and I might make a video about it. So organization is difficult because we have sponsors as well. So we do sponsored content, which is it's not hidden away from anyone. We're sponsored by Framer and other amazing companies. So we have to organize the time pretty tightly. So we use an app called Motion, beginning with the letter M, not the other one called Notion. We use Motion. And I use that specifically to just get all my tasks in there and do it. And sometimes it's quite difficult because you've got to do a video in the week. You've got to do, Instagram stuff. You've got to do whatever. But the main thing I've learned is that when you get to a point of you're losing time on the evening most days of the week, or you're just burning out, you need a team around you. So that's where you start to invest in a team. It's not about outsourcing someone for the cheapest amount. It's about investing into people in your team who give a crap about what you do. They love the mission behind it and they love being part of it. So in doing that, they love it, you love it, you're being helped, you're helping them. So organization is difficult, is the best way of saying it. For me, it's just if I have a video idea, I'll generally run it past our producer and editor, Cam, who films and edits everything. And he kind of will flesh it out, make sure I'm not saying something that would be bad or insensitive in any way. And I kind of roll with it. But our time is never ultra organized of okay, in the morning, I'll get up at like 5 in the morning and I'll do meditation and drink a kale smoothie and do 100,000 push-ups. It's very relaxed. We kind of just take it as it comes, and as much as possible, our client work takes longer than most, and that's not a bad thing. A lot of clients love that. We really care about the craft of what we do, and in everything that we show, we try and make that clear that we're kind of this dreamlike brand where we want it to feel very calm, even to the set, inspired by the scene in Breaking Bad of Jesse Pinkman doing his box, like creating his box. Everything's inspired by that, which is kind of this idyllic time in your life of where you're hands-on with something and creating. So we try and leave space. The best way of doing that is to give yourself more time, which, you know, I'm being a proper hypocrite right now because today I should have given myself more time to do client work later. But I haven't. So I'm in a bit of a, you know, pickle for tomorrow. But that being said, most of the time, it's just, I need more time in this. It's more handcrafted. I'm going to make sure it's good. And just understanding that when you employ yourself, or if you're a creative individual, the list will never get smaller. It will only just get larger the more you do. So it's like, it doesn't do this, or you don't strike them off. It kind of, as you strike them off, it just stays the same and just kind of infinitely adds.
The trick here, Will, is actually to do a one-handed push-up with a smoothie in your front, and then your mouse on the right hand in order to design, and that way you could do it all at the same time.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Yeah. So my final question to kind of round about this, in my opinion, a very wholesome and incredible story that we're telling, is you said a very key word, which is referrals. And I think, you know, that is probably the one aspect of most businesses that a lot of people aren't good at. They are very used to this like hit it and quit it mentality where they get the client to do the work, they say see you later. Are there some techniques or some strategies that you've used in your, you know, history of business that allows you the ability to obtain referrals as a consistent marketing and sales strategy?
No. No, but now that you think of it, the only answer that I have is you give them work that they just have to share. You do something so different that they can't help but talk about. So one of them is a client we recently just like finished with, and he's obsessed with the process. He absolutely loves it. It can get kind of overwhelming because all we do differently really is care more. And the more you care, the more it shows. The people who care the most about the design work and the work that they put out are the ones that will get more work, because if the difference is with design and branding is that it either like works or it doesn't in the end. And if a client says, oh, can you do this for the logo? And you just want an easy ride. So you just say, yeah, I'll do that for you. Knowing full well that it would affect the brand identity, but you just want to get paid, right? It might take you an extra month to do like what you actually want to do. But if you just want to get paid quickly, I'll just do this bit and then send it to them. That there is going to, you know, make them think that you're just looking for time or looking for a quick ride. A lot of the times when we've worked with clients, we've had like a 6-month contract of like a deadline. It's taken another 6 months afterwards, and we don't charge them any extra at all for that. And that to them shows that, number one, we're not in it for the money, particularly. Because if you're a designer or a branding expert, I don't think if you're in it specifically for the money, that you would survive long enough. You have to be so caring and care enough, and not saying not to get paid. And obviously everyone needs to be paid. But I think there's a difference about being compensated for your time and looking to get the most amount possible for the least amount of work. What we try and do to round it off is whatever they've paid, we try and do more. And we try even harder to do more. And sometimes I think to myself when I'm doing it, what am I doing? Like, this is ridiculous. I'm adding more stress to my life. I'm is to the detriment of my health that I'm doing this, basically. And then I think and go, no, actually, this, when I'm gone and I'm not doing this anymore, this identity is still going to be around. And the only way it's going to still be around when I'm gone is if I make sure it's still around when I'm gone by doing it now, like by creating and spending time on it. So we have no strategy for referrals other than we want anyone who becomes a client of ours or who works with us to understand that we're not like, or to understand that we're all about the craft of this. We're not about simply the end result.
And also, it sounds like just doing the right thing, right? Like you may not want to do something, but you just know it's the right thing to do, and therefore, because of your craftsmanship, you just have to do it, right?
Of course, like animation. So a client never bought animation for our logos, but we'll spend an extra 2 months animating it because we know it needs it.
That's awesome. I have one final question, something that we've been asking every single one of our guests about the future and the AI. Obviously, you've told an amazing story about how you use AI and the craftsmanship that you've built. But if you were to look ahead in 3 to 5 years, do you have any potential guesses as to what AI could potentially bring to the design world, if good or bad? And then also, do you have any theories of what it can do to us as business professionals?
Yeah. There'll be a lot. Everyone's seeing AI slop. There is, even now, and I've said it from the start, that obviously we have a novelty of generative AI. People will go and use it for the coffee shop. We have a little stall in our small market town in the UK that sells burgers and coffees along this very idyllic scenic walk. And they created their logo in Canva. AI, and the rest of it in Canva. And a lot of designers on Reddit would get annoyed at that. And they would be very righteous and entitled and say, they should have used a real designer. Do you know what they're doing to the industry? They're devaluing it. But they would never have gone to you anyway. Like, they would never even have the budget to go to you. So what's wrong with them using AI? It's not like these companies are going to start using it for everything. That being said, there are companies that use AI for generative work. And I don't, I'm not like smart enough to know whether that's like good or bad for the future. But what I do know is when design software became digital, like Adobe Illustrator, the same questions were happening. The first thing was everyone can do it now. So that means it's going to devalue the people who are creating the line work, for all these things. When in reality, the cream rose to the top. So people who use the program were able to rise to the top. AI is computer generated, and in the generative format that we have now with generative diffusion, it will always run at a singularity. So that means it will always look like AI in the end. There'll always be something that will show it. People even now are starting to crave human-made work, human design. That's why the rustic and lettering thing is so crazy to these modern people, because when you design a letter form with your hand, they're like, oh, wow, you can do that by hand, when it was forever like that before computers. So my guess is that AI is going to help me, because many people are going to use it and work out that it didn't work for them. They might be able to strategize a brand with it. They might be able to use it to help them with their coffee shops or even their companies for design, but it will never replace the craft behind an actual human being who spent years with empathy, emotional damages, emotional highs, good, bad, wrong, spiritual. All these things can't be replicated. And this isn't an airy-fairy thing. This is the same for every sort of profession, I think, other than ones that are easily repeatable. So for designers, I think we're fine, personally, but only I think we're fine if you're not worried about it. Because if you're worried about it, that means that you're going to get replaced. And that is going to happen for anyone who's worried about it. And that's a sad reality. But if you're learning skills that cannot be as easily replicated or require a certain methodology in your mind, such as brand strategy, no one can prompt that correctly, then you'll be fine, I think. You'll even be more than fine. As we've noticed, we've all had iPhones, but we still hire wedding photographers. So there's that. We have painting, we have artists, and people don't get their portraits done, but people still buy portraits of other people. So it's all this thing to contend with. I think to round this out, and I know it's a long-winded answer as well as my other ones, but I want to be clear with them. Technology is growing at such a fast rate. It's actually slowing down now, in my opinion. But with AI, there will come a day where it just reaches its point of, especially with this generative AI, it's not going to become a superhuman anytime soon. I don't believe it will take over the world, generative AI, at all. I think other forms will, super intelligences will. But the future for designers and business owners is that organization is going to be made a lot easier. Productivity will be higher for companies because we'll be organized better. Email communications will be better. And I think that comes with some negatives. Like, I don't know if you've read, but a lot of people will use ChatGPT for everything. So they've stopped thinking almost. And in doing so, that is negatively going to impact people's critical thinking skills, in my opinion. And I think AI should be used as like an assistant of some sort. So positives, negatives, I think people should use it responsibly, use it to help you get to where you want to be. I don't think generative AI is good for most professionals, but I don't think you need to be against it either.
Yeah, I mean, well, this entire conversation has been very, I would say, careful in the wording that you choose and intentional in the things that you do. And this conversation has been incredible. And for it, I wish that it happened sooner, and I wish it happens more often because you're incredibly intelligent, and the things that you've been able to do for the community of the design world has been inspiring. And we're super grateful for all the things that you've done over the past 10 plus years. So thank you.
Cheers, Jonathan. That's very, very kind of you, dude. Thank you.
Of course, Ed. Absolutely.